The curtain comes down on the Gauteng season. Fantastic days racing, and Tail of the Comet, impeccably bred. I remember the mother very, very well from Nina Robertson's stud. Very fast filly, and has produced some decent progeny. What are you expecting in race one for George O'Brien and friend?
Yeah, so he seems a nice colt. I must say this field, I've got a feeling is very strong, and you know, he could run a nice type of race, but I'm not expecting too much. But he'll be running on at the finish.
Kumbumbulu, a gelding who's had the 3 starts and has in no way been disgraced in any of them, and looks to be progressing.
Yeah, Kambulu's had a break. He's been gelded, and he may just need the run. He does get a little bit of headstrong in his races. I think after gelding he should be more settled, and I think Pierre's probably the right jock for him. It seems a competitive field. He may just need the run. I would give him some sort of a chance, but I think maybe just short of match fitness.
Okay, American Graffiti, been to the races twice with green form, which means that she's won twice and she looks way above average.
She's a nice filly. She's, as you say, progressive. She won a good race last time. It looked like she was in trouble going through the 300, and she found a gear late and won a good race. This is a very competitive field, Andrew, and you know, every horse in the race I think is going to have a tough time because it's that competitive. But she's in good shape, and she's definitely in with a shout.
Would you prefer her marginally to her stable companion, Mrs. Geriatrics?
Mrs. Geriatrics did nothing wrong, Andrew. She's won very comfortably. Obviously, slightly inside with a draw. Americans drawn marginally better. The draw is probably what's separating them. If it wasn't for the draw, I'd actually lean towards Miss Geriatrics.
It's very, very seldom that lightning strikes twice, particularly decades apart with the same ownership. Lucky Lad has done just that. He's been a joy to own thus far.
He's a nice colt. He's a horse we always rated highly. You know, he's never shown you that sparkling work, but you know that there is something there, and he seems to have just a bit more on race day. You know, he hasn't made it easy in both of his wins, but when he hit the line, he was comfortable at the very end. Yeah, I think Mark, as his fillies, is probably going to stretch him again, as she did the last time. We are marginally better weighted, which should help us. But I'm happy with him. He's in a good space. There are some competitive other runners in the race, but I think he'll go really well.
Here comes Princess Keller.
Princess Keller. For much of her career, she had to live in the shadow of Captain's Ransom, but there's nobody that would argue that she's beyond any doubt the best filly in South Africa at the moment. The versatility and the manner in which she asserts her authority has been very, very impressive, Sean.
Yeah, she is certainly a special filly. You know, I can't get too excited for this run, Andrew. I mean, the form analysts and form studiers, they would be able to do more than me. I am quite a conservative person when it comes to tipping. She's had a setback. We've done what we can with the time we've had. I feel she's in a good enough space to run well. If I've got her, you know, in a good enough space to win it, well, we'll have to find out. I definitely wouldn't say that she can't win. She certainly can win. But I think if I had another 10 days, I could just have a bit of confidence.
You've always made it clear that there was a little bit of meat on the bone to work with. She's going to have to bring her A game, but we know that her run in the computer form sprint last year was exemplary.
It was, Andrew, but this filly's been quite busy, eh? And at the ratings, she's got it all to do. Yes, we've got the draw, and she's come on a bit since...
For a change, you got the draw.
For a change, and she's come on a bit since her last run. This field is going to be no walk in the park. She's a filly that likes to lead, but I don't think it's going to be easy to lead in this race.
All right, if you're playing poker, you wouldn't want much a bit of a hand than you've got with Nebraska Litigation and the favourite Rain in Holland, who has returned to her absolutely brilliant best. I think you must be very happy with the preparation of all three of your runners going into this race.
Yes, listen, I am. I think Litigation last run, maybe he wasn't quite where I wanted him. He was sweating up a bit in the parade ring, and that's normally the telltale sign. We'll only learn on Saturday, unfortunately. It's not going to help anybody with this interview, but I do feel that I've got him in a better space, and I think I'd like to ride him a little more conservatively. And yeah, at the ratings, it's going to be tough for him. But I think if he could run in the first 4 or 5, I'd be happy with that type of run. Nebros, I think, has got as good a chance as any, and as any of the others, let's put it that way. He's in a good space. Obviously, we know he's a very good stayer, and you know, this is not his best distance, but he's certainly more than capable over this distance, as we've seen in his last few runs. So I do think he'll be there. He's not without a shot. And Rain in Holland, I think, is she's well weighted here. She's had a lovely prep. I think this is going to be a peak run in Joburg. And Richard gets back on. So there's not too much I can say about her, other than if the race works out for her, she'll be there when the photos are taken.
And then another 2 very high-class fillies in Full Velocity and Sweet Pepper. Renew Rivalry, they're in the 8th.
Oh, again, a competitive race here, Andrew. I mean, there's very few fillies in this race that don't have some sort of winning chance. But Full Velocity certainly come on since her first 2 runs, which I felt she needed. She was a little rusty, could have been moving better. But I think she's made all those improvements that we've needed to see from every aspect. Very happy with her, and I think she's a nice price. She'll be right there.
Sweet Pepper?
Sweet Pepper, funny enough, same sort of comments apply, in that she needed a run quite badly, and she wasn't disgraced, and she's certainly come on since then. She's not the best mover, but I feel that I've got her moving really well, and her work's been very good. So both of them should be there. If they're good enough, we'll have to see.
And then Bless My Stars, who's also had a busy season, follows a similar path to that great filly Rain in Holland.
Yes, Andrew, I don't think she's been too busy. I mean, she has had a fair amount of racing since October. A few of them have been prep runs leading up to her main targets. And I think she's only really come good now recently. The Oaks, she was too far out of her ground. Whether she was as effective over that trip as she was over 9 furlongs was still a debate. But I do feel over this trip she'll be spot on in terms of distance. Her prep has gone really well, and I'd like to say that I expect it to be in the mix. She'll run a big race.
Lovely. And then Future Pearl, he's the horse that got severely punished for his run in the Derby. He gets 12 kilos from the favourite Shangani, but maybe you can tell the uninitiated exactly how far he is under sufferance and why you think 2 miles is his game.
I don't necessarily think 2 miles is his game. Taking an absolute chance here based on the 15 kilos and the fact that his rating got obliterated in his last start, which we knew there was a reasonable chance of that happening. I mean, with a different line horse, could have read it completely different, but that's what we've come away with. I can work with that going into next season, because I've already got his rating up to where I need it to be for certain races. But I thought we would just do a stamina check here and see, with 12 kilos, how close he can get to Shangani. I think he's had a really good prep. Even though he gets 12 kilos, he's still a good few kilos out at the weights with Shangani. But, it's a horse race, and it's a big race meeting. We put them in there, and it's sink or swim.